Howdy, folks. I'm Jeff Gonzalez, former Navy SEAL, founder of Trident Concepts, and host of the Bulletproof Workshop, powered by AR15.com, where we discuss knowledge, skills, and ability to help bulletproof your everyday performance in whatever your field or passion. Welcome to Podcast 030. My next guest has been a martial artist in various disciplines for over 30 years. After military service with the U.S. Army Rangers, he became a police officer working an array of assignments, including an undercover narcotics agent with over 20 years. A near-death experience challenged his beliefs and interpersonal conflict. Challenged his beliefs on interpersonal conflict, and he started on a path towards extreme close quarters combat. Staying on the path means staying true to the realities of conflict, and a hallmark for conflict is being comfortable with violence. Exposing students to metered and controlled violence has been his hallmark, and not easily achieved, but with lasting effects for his students, changing their perspectives. He's a sexy sommelier, practical pedagogue, great gastronome, master mixologist, and a very close friend. Please welcome to the show, Craig Douglas.
Wow, if I was a Game of Thrones character, I would want you introducing me to the court. You know, that's awesome. That's the best. Father of Dragons, master gastronome. That's the best. Good for you, Jeff.
Oh, thank you. Well, Craig, first, thank you for coming on the show. Man. I've been so excited. I know that now that we're local, it's been hard to get some time together. So this is pretty awesome. And of course, you know what's so funny is the last time we actually really did get together, there was the last winter storm that shut Austin down. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We went to have brunch, and then right after that, the ceiling
barely got home.
Yeah, that's true.
Almost had to get home on skis.
Yes.
Crazy.
So now we're here again, and we have this freak weather phenomenon. I think it has something to do with you, maybe.
I am elemental.
All right. Well, we are so happy to have you on the show. I like to start the show off by getting to know the guest and learning about, where they hail from, where they grew up. But before you answer that question, let's take a quick break for our sponsors. Thank our sponsors here real quick. Folks, this show is sponsored by 1776 Insurance. We're talking about comprehensive firearms collection coverage. That also includes your accessories as well as knives. If you've got questions or you want to learn more, please visit 1776insurance.com. And
back at it.
We are back. All right, Craig. So where do you hail from?
So the Mississippi Gulf Coast. I was born and raised there. Lived there all my life. I had a 2-year hiatus when I was sent to military school.
Sent?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, court order sent?
Military school, pretty much.
Oh,
more or less.
Whoa.
Yeah. The only reason I got in law enforcement was because I had my juvenile record adjudicated and expunged.
Nice.
Anyway, so 2 years in military school, went from there to the Army, did a 3-year enlistment, 86 to 89, got out, came home, and started, bounced for 6 months because Roadhouse was freshly in my mind. And every young guy with a mullet.
Hell yeah, baby.
Every young guy with a mullet like me wanted to be the cooler.
Hell
right?
Yeah.
So, weapons grade mullet, gi shirt, cowboy boots, the whole nine yards.
Did the gi shirt, was it sleeveless?
No, it wasn't sleeveless. No, Swayze's wasn't sleeveless.
No, right? But he would have like been one notch up.
See, we're mixing like Cobra Kai. And,
yeah, that's true. I guess you're right. You're right. All right. Fair enough.
Did that for 6 months and then hired on with the Sheriff's Department. And I did a 21-year career there from 90 to 2011. Held a variety of assignments. Did my law enforcement career there and retired after doing private sector training in force since 2003. Did that for 8 years and realized I could make a living at it, and I loved it. And that's where I'm at now. So 12 years now. Yeah, it's 23. 12 years now. I've been doing private sector training. 21 years, actual years, if you include the year I started teaching, teaching under the brand ShivWorks. And now I teach in 48 states, 11 countries outside of the U.S., all 4 branches of the U.S. military, 6 federal LEOs, little law enforcement agencies, and I have a standing contract with a couple of clients in the IC, the intelligence community, and I've been their combatives guy for 8 years now.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you were strongly encouraged to pursue the military. Was that kind of like foreshadowing of your like gravitation towards violence?
Oh no, I was my gravitation towards violence came from early trauma and being the skinny kid with the birthmark and getting beat up, and I was Daniel LaRusso, right? I got enrolled.
Okay, so now we can go Cobra Kai.
Now we can go Cobra Kai. Get your references right. No, I was getting beat up, and my grandfather, against my mother's wishes, enrolled me in martial arts in 1973.
Holy
I was
cow.
5 years old. And the only thing back then was Taekwondo.
Yeah.
But it was like old school hard Taekwondo. That's what everybody with silver in their hair says.
Yes.
It was hard.
Yeah.
But it was actually, in fact, the old Joan Ree safety chop and kick came out probably a year after I started in Taekwondo. But I did that and I was good at it, and then like a lot of kids, it turned into martial arts daycare. So I would go to the kids class at 3:30 and I would train from 3:30 to 5. And I would have dinner with my instructors who had a studio apartment built and attached to their dojo. And I'd just eat dinner with them. And then I'd do the adult class until like 8 o'clock. And then my grandfather would come pick me up and take me home. So I did that 4 or 5 days a week from 5 until 9. And then I started teaching the kids class when I was 9 years old.
You're kidding.
No. So I've got a lot of, I've done everything you could do wrong as a teacher, but I've been teaching motor skills of some type for a long time. But I did martial arts throughout childhood. Was bullied, grew into teen years, became a bully.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The preemptive strike, man.
Oh, I see. Okay. So now we're on games. Now we're going to Games of Thrones.
I'm going to bully them before they bully me. And so I went through that and started getting into drugs and criminality. And then I had 3 felonies on me when I was 14 years old.
Wow.
And went to live with my father for a bit in South Florida. That didn't work real well. And finally the consensus among the family was, he's gotta go. Ooh. So there was a place called Marion Military Institute that another friend of mine, a fellow juvenile delinquent, had been sent to. And he really liked it.
Interesting.
As it turns out, because there were just a bunch of people like him.
Yeah.
So, and me.
Yeah.
So I went there and it kind of sorted me out.
Really?
Yeah, it did.
What did you think?
It mostly sorted me out.
What do you feel like was the, what was it, more of the carrot or the stick for you there?
Well, it was definitely the stick. Yeah. I mean, but we were rigidly held accountable.
For sure.
The bottom line is I could cajole, and BS and emotionally manipulate my way out of consequences as a child. I was very good at that.
So you were verbal agilitizing way back in the day.
Well, yeah. I mean, I had to talk myself out of things before I learned how to fight out of things because I couldn't fight. I was getting beat up.
I know that feeling.
Skinny kid with a birthmark.
Yeah.
So I had to learn to use humor and wit and things like that. And then when I started learning how to fight, I could like kick another 8-year-old in the head. Being a young Taekwondo guy.
Yeah.
Now I can do both.
Yeah.
Right. And it felt good.
Yeah.
It felt empowering. So I'm like, I'm going to do this to other people. So I became a bully.
Oh.
And that led into other things. Yeah. I've experienced both sides. But back to your question, military school, it was definitely the stick. We were rigidly held accountable. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, and it was unyielding.
Yeah.
As far as the consequences for, not having your bed made, not having your, I've been called a psychopath by my current partner, Lauren, because I dry the sink out. And if you didn't dry the sink out on a room inspection when I was a 16-year-old cadet in military school, it was like 3 demerits.
You know what's so funny?
And demerits equal penalty tours, and you have to march on Saturday around the quad in your dress blues in Alabama, in like August, and sucks. So still to this day, if I see a wet sink, I get an eye tick, and I'm like,
I cannot wait.
I don't want to march.
I'm gonna have like a little, like a syringe. I have a little syringe with me. Just
totally
start
freak me out. Don't do it. Do not.
So I'm laughing. I'm laughing only because birds of a feather, and
you've got some OCD like that,
big time. Jamie was. She just laughs, and she. I hope she listens to this. I'm sure she will, because I'll come into like the bathroom,
right,
and there'll be something in disarray, and
you'll notice it.
Oh yeah,
things are always in array.
Oh, absolutely,
the same array.
Oh, for sure. So I'll put it back together, but I won't pay it. I do it without even knowing I'm doing it, and then I'll walk back in there like maybe an hour or two later, and it's disarrayed again.
Yeah.
I'd be like, what the fuck? And finally, she couldn't hold it in anymore. She finally let me know that she would go in there and mess with stuff. And I'm like, that has like such evil to it. Yeah. Why would you do that? Knowing that it would drive me insane.
You've got that same look that Christian Bale has when he realizes the guy's card has a watermark.
Yes.
He's just kind of flat
pushing. I'm pushing. So we have fun now. We have fun about that, because I'll see something and then I'll stop and then I'll look, and sure enough, she's like hiding around the corner so she can watch my expression. Yes. And I'll be like, gotcha.
It's fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. Women are evil. Don't let anybody tell you different. So,
well, that's there's no Eden.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So one of the things you had mentioned, empowering, when you were, in the dojo and learning stuff and being able to exercise some independence, if you will. And I can remember I went down a similar path, but a little bit later. It wasn't until my early teens that I started in martial arts, and it was karate. And I'll never forget the first in-house tournament that we had. And I didn't know what to expect, didn't know what to do. And it was just this, like, you come into the center, you bow to the referee, you bow to one another, you get the signal. And, I just jumped up and did a sidekick and just nailed the person. I wasn't expecting to hit him in the face. I was aiming for the chest, but I hit him in the face and just laid them out. And I was like horrified at first. I was like, oh my God. But then a little bit later, I was like, dude, I just laid that guy out. So I found a similar outlet in a sense that kind of helped. I would say it didn't do the best job of managing per se some of my issues, but it certainly kind of opened the door a little bit, cracked just a little bit, just so I can see that there was something. And I think that ultimately is what helped me find my way into the military and furthermore down the road.
Yeah, the military, I think, is the saving grace of a lot of
misfit toys
and a lot of young men who, through that's just how they are. And through a lot of childhood trauma, I think it's a legal, lawful way for them to be able to, exercise
be themselves,
exercise violent tendencies. I don't know a single guy in a tier 1 unit that doesn't have some kind of horrendous childhood trauma, and they won't say it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you actually get to know them, and you hear like stories about, horribly abusive fathers and things like that, it's like,
yeah,
because it's got to come from somewhere, right? You can be born that way, and I've known some people like that in my law enforcement career, who, despite a phenomenal upbringing, that's just a bad seed. That's just how that guy came out.
I know.
But most of them have a fair bit of trauma, and I was one of those.
Yeah,
I was one of those. So
I think for me, it was like violence when I had exposure to it in a way that I did in my military career. It gave me kind of like purpose almost. Like I felt I had purpose. You know, the business end of my job, the violence that we delivered upon our enemies brought me purpose, it kind of like gave me that kind of like burning urge to get as good as I could with it. So I feel like maybe I was also one of those kind that my trauma was the fact that I went my entire young adult life not knowing what I wanted to do or not knowing where to go to do it. And it was fate or fortune, however you want to look at it, or misfortune that brought me into the Navy. So I think too that when you think about like the success that you have created in your current, you know, your adulthood, and looking back at your childhood and your early, you know, maybe late teens to early adulthood, like, did you have any idea that this is where you were going to be?
Oh, no. No. And, I have I spent most of my law enforcement career in narcotics and, the UC time, which I'm sure we'll probably touch on at some point. But, more than one person when we're going through something in training, has heard me say life's a dope deal, and that's kind of how I look at life. And I run my business like a dope deal. I don't think a whole lot about it. If it feels good, I do it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't feel good, I don't do it. And I have a fairly good gut at 50, going to be 5 this year. I start counting my birthday the year that when it turns it like a horse, So as soon as January 1 rolls off, I just start calling myself birthdays in June. So I'm 55.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, no, I had no idea what I was going to be doing. I didn't give it a lot of thought. I got out. I knew, okay, I've got college money and I want to go to college to spite my father, not because I gave a shit about
being educated,
yeah, but just to show him that I could, and I wanted to. And I wanted to be in the CIA.
Okay.
And everybody was like, okay, the next big front is economic intelligence. And that's what you have to really focus on are the evil Japanese because they're going to steal our economy. So I majored in East Asian studies and minored in Japanese. And,
You're kidding.
I got a BA in that. And I did that. Went to college as a full-time college student while I was a full-time correctional officer, then patrol officer.
Wow.
And finished and got my degree in 94.
Damn.
And what had happened was we didn't have any training in our agency, none whatsoever.
How big was the department?
Small department, probably 200 people.
Oh, okay.
Sworn. Yeah. So I was at the county jail and I choked an inmate out because I had a good choke, right? From judo and some aikido and aikijitsu I'd done as a kid, a little bit of wrestling. And choked an inmate out. People thought that was like a magic trick. So they were like, hey, can you show me that? So I showed them that. And at some point, they were like, hey, we're going to send you to a defensive tactics instructor school. So I went to the PPCT DT instructor school. And then I started teaching as an adjunct at our academy.
Interesting.
And there were 3 big academies in Mississippi at the time. And I was teaching at the one on the coast in Long Beach. So I started teaching there in 1992 and actually quickly moved into the lead. As a matter of fact, I taught defensive tactics in my own academy class because I had been doing it already, which was weird.
That is weird.
It was weird. Shifted hats, but I did it and everybody just kind of put up with it. And it was a boarded academy too. It wasn't a gentleman's academy. It was an old style boarded academy.
Nice.
So I literally switched hats.
Wow, that is weird.
With guys who had been, it was. But everybody was like, okay, just did it. So I became I was the martial arts nerd that showed guys a choke. And then I started, they were like, teach me this. So they formalized, and I got certified as an instructor. And then I started teaching at the academy, every academy class throughout the years. Every single one, not only every full-time academy class and every reserve class too. So every quarter, 100 new people, so 400 people a year.
Jeez.
So for then, and I was a part-time instructor. That was a lot, and I did that from
that was basically a collateral duty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. In addition to my full-time duties.
Wow.
So, once a quarter, a new academy class would come through and I'd go and give them a week.
Wow.
For both the full-time and the reserve class.
Nice.
So I did that from 92 until 2012. I actually taught one more year after I retired. So I taught for 20 years as an adjunct at the police academy. I also, as I came through my career, had my patrol time, moved into an undercover assignment for 2 years, and then went from undercover to regular topside, as we call it, opposite of undercover work, narcotics time, and did that until I promoted out and became the first training officer for my agency. I was also the SWAT team commander, created our modern SWAT team within our agency in 2000. So teaching was a theme literally since childhood.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any idea that I would do it for a living, and it was the, it was the beginning of private sector work that actually really let me know, wow, I really like this. I like these people. And there are distinctions in populations that you're very well aware of. That some are fun to teach and some are not, and I've done both, and I still do both. Yeah. Right. But I never thought I would teach for a living, and I didn't plan it that way. But I think what happened, just whatever path I was driven to by whatever higher or lower power, it's where I'm supposed to be.
It's interesting too, because I can remember, I think I was probably 3 platoons deep at this point in my career, and we would go out and do things, and we would have these inner platoon teaching sessions. Right. Somebody would, hey, teach this, and we would kind of bring everybody together. And the first one that I think I did was on booby traps, and then I did it just kind of half-ass. The first time I did it, the guys, I set up just an early warning when you're out in the jungle. The last thing I want is somebody to creep up on me, in my platoon. And, the thing at the time would be to just light cuts on your hammock so that when you would sit in it, it would just unfray and you would fall down in the middle of the night. Oh yeah. That was uncool. So I would set up these little booby traps, and I would, manage to get that early warning. Hey, what's going on? Who are you? And I had big old Maglite 5-cell 5D cell Maglite at the time. Yes. It wasn't really 5 cells, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. So, they kind of were interested in that. And then before I knew it, I was like, oh man, I actually needed to learn about this. And there were some Vietnam era frogmen that shared with me their kind of experiences. And that's kind of how I think that was the first thing I can remember actually having to pass knowledge formally, make it an interesting thing. But I never would have thought that I'd be sitting, in the role that I'm at, leading the industry in many cases.
And I didn't plan my life, and that's why I say, it's life's a dope deal. Hashtag lad.
I look back and I like where I'm at. Yeah. I enjoy it. I've made some good decisions. I've made some bad decisions. I've made more good than bad. So I'm happy, and I'm thrilled in many cases because it's put me in this chair to sitting across from you, talking to you about some cool shit. Now, we talked about some of the trauma from your childhood, but what was some of the fonder memories from your childhood?
Fonder memories? My grandfather.
Yeah. You mentioned
my grandfather.
Yeah.
Oh man. He was the patriarchal figure.
Nice.
He was the one taking me to martial arts, and my grandfather was legendary locally in law enforcement.
Really?
And he was the chief of Pascagoula Police Department in the 50s. He was a Mississippi highway patrolman.
Wow.
He was chief deputy under one sheriff, and he was the chief of investigations under another. And it was interesting when I came into local law enforcement on the Mississippi Gulf Coast in Jackson County, everybody in senior positions of leadership in the 5 agencies within my county, the sheriff's department, the 4 cities, had worked for my grandfather.
Wow.
So they knew him, right? And I was his grandson, right? Who had been kind of a juvenile delinquent, pain in the ass. Felon.
Spotlight.
Drugs and everything. So it's like, all right. So I kind of got a pass basically because of my grandfather. I don't think they really would. But at the same time, I also performed. Yeah. So, hiring on with my agency, I think we had like 300 people that took the written tests back when people wanted to be a cop.
Right.
But I was number 1.
No kidding.
I was number 1 on the written test. I was number 1 on every single promotion. I retired out as a captain. Every single competitive venue I won.
Nice.
I was number 2 Academy graduate in my academy class. So, people couldn't say it was just nepotism because, that's Barney's grandson.
Yeah. You earned it.
I did earn it. But, some of that followed me around in my career from the old guys, that didn't like me because I was kind of an ass. Mm-hmm. I was a martial artist. I generally won. I generally got my way, being in the 80 Ranger Regiment certainly didn't do anything to calm me down because everything then was Lord of the Flies. So I was kind of an ass. Yeah. And the old guys just didn't like me.
Interesting.
They didn't.
Well,
they didn't. I was not liked. I was tolerated
for sure,
but I was never liked. And most begrudgingly respected as my career evolved.
Sure,
because I performed
at that point,
and also would fall on my sword.
Interesting.
As I came into leadership positions, I'd fall on my sword.
Well, and
they knew that.
There was going to be conversation about that a little bit later, like do-overs, regrets, things like that. Like, and when you talk about like falling on the sword, it leads me to believe that you acknowledged mistakes, you acknowledged errors, you acknowledged things that could have gone better or different that you were responsible for and didn't.
I took accountability for everything that I was directly responsible for, and I actually took accountability for things I wasn't responsible for because those people needed to be protected.
Interesting.
So, and bottom line, I had a career-long enemy in my agency. literally hated me from the time. The number 3 man of my agency, he's dead now.
Oh, okay.
Thank God. That's a terrible thing to say, right? But everybody canonizes.
Sure.
Canonizes these people.
Bring it.
Yeah. Everybody canonizes shitheads after they die, right? It's like, no, man, that guy didn't become he didn't go from shithead to saint because of death. Yeah. Right. It's like, oh, well, he's a shithead. Glad he's gone.
People like to not speak ill of the dead. That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm perfectly okay with speaking ill of the dead.
There are plenty of people that I don't have a problem.
I'm just fine with that. I mean, really, who's and that's
I'm so glad Osama bin Laden.
That's a bunch of horseshit. Who says Osama bin Laden? Oh man, he was just so misunderstood. I mean, right? The whole speak ill of the dead.
Yeah,
you don't get canonized in death. Nonetheless, he as I came up in my law enforcement career, the animus towards me just got worse and
what do you
worse
think it was?
and worse.
What was it from?
He hated me.
Was it ego?
It was we were polar opposites. Huh. I was a veteran. He was not. I was college educated, put myself through school, He was not. People like in the rank and file.
You were a go-getter.
Liked me. Yeah. I actually did police work. And he was one of those guys that got promoted by default because he hung around long enough, and I was a good shooter, and I was very much into every aspect of firearms training, and people started coming to me for, instruction, and he was not only the 3 man of the agency, he was over the firearms program. So I was a threat to him. Yeah. Well, Craig said, do it this way. Craig said, don't cross my thumbs, on this auto pistol. He said, like, open this up and let one thumb go over there. Yeah, who was he? He didn't run anything. So it just got worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And when it got down to it, when he couldn't get me picked off or pick me off directly, he started coming after my guys.
Oh, I gotcha. Yep.
And that's when I started. And there were a couple of instances with some of my guys. There were things that they legitimately did that because they were my guys, the consequence for them would not have been the same as for anybody else in the agency. So I went ahead and said, yeah, that's my fault, not theirs. And I took accountability for it because I knew that the sheriff at the time who liked me, at the end of the day, he'd let this guy poke me a little bit, but I wouldn't get fired or days off or anything like that. Where my guys that the sheriff didn't like so much, would have my enemy would have had his way with him. So I would take accountability for those guys just to protect them because again,
brilliant.
I knew that hey man, and that was really the last straw where I'm like, yeah, I'm done here. When they started picking me, when they started trying to pick my guys off, and I never will forget calling my SWAT team in, and if any of them hear this, they'll absolutely corroborate this. I think it was like 2010 where I call and the agency is just in horrendous emotional health. It is so dysfunctional.
Oh my goodness.
Our sheriff, the guy who liked me, unfortunately is also a psychopath too. He's dead also.
Oh.
And COVID got him.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So anyway, I called the SWAT team and I said, look, boys, I don't know what's going to happen, but something bad's going to happen. Right. And I am not going to stick around because I make more money in a weekend than I do here in a month. And I love doing that. And I love you guys, but I can't stand this place and I got to go.
Yeah.
All right. Whatever I can do to help you and protect you, let me know from the outside, but you guys are going to have to stick together.
Yeah.
Right? And sure enough, when I punched out in 2011, year and a half later, I believe our sheriff at the time gets indicted by both the feds and locals. It's a 29 count indictment.
What?
And he ends up getting ousted from office and wears an ankle bracelet and house arrest for the next 18 months. Yeah.
You're kidding.
No.
Wow.
I mean, it is, the place I worked in many ways was like a William Faulkner novel. It was Southern Gothic.
Wow.
Flem Snopes could have been a deputy at the Jackson County Sheriff's Department. Oh yeah,
that is some really
great. The public only knew, and it's not just endemic to Southern law enforcement; it's everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely,
it's everywhere. The public only knew.
I mean, it sounds like the number 3. One of the things that I saw, and I didn't understand it at the time. It took me years for me to. I actually had to be out of the Navy for me to see this, but I believe this is what kind of was relevant to you was that hatred or that dislike or whatever you want to call it was motivated because you were everything they were not.
Yeah, pretty much.
And the problem that I have with that is, you know what? If that's true, the question is why? Why am I and you not? Is it because I'm that much better? No, it's not. It's just because I put the work in. I did the work. I made the sacrifices. I did the things that were hard, that weren't easy, and others did not. So I feel like it's unfortunate, but like guys like that get elevated in status, leadership wise, authority wise. And I believe that is also part of the reason that you see the decay or the morale, the loss of morale is because people like that have this insidious way of making things bad for everybody else.
I think there are two general archetypes in professions of arms. Arguably, law enforcement is that a profession of arms? People are armed.
We'll call it that.
Yeah, armed professions.
Yeah,
is probably better versus profession of arms. Nonetheless, there are two archetypes: military or law enforcement, or other right? Those who spend their career mastering their craft.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Those SEALs who, go out and put extra range time in, right? Or, a homicide cop who pays for an interview and interrogation school on his own dime that the agency won't send him to. There are people that spend their career mastering the craft, and then the other people spend their career working on their career. They're the people who do the minimum of the craft to say, yeah, well, I was a patrol officer. Yeah, I worked as a detective for, 6 months. Yeah, I was in a narcotics task force for, a road tip for 3 months, blah, 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 blah. And they usually try and get a 8 to 5 day shift assignment, probably somewhere close to the hub of business, like the courthouse or the municipal building, where all the politicians and the mucky mucks, from the community, the Rotary Club members, and they work on their career, and then they, get a National Academy slot for the FBI National Academy, now that's a big chief's marker or a sheriff's marker, and that's what they do. They spend their career working on their career. And I think those two archetypes seem to be fairly common with armed professions.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but as I was listening to you, I could immediately think back and almost like look at faces in my head and go, yep. Like kind of see what side of the fence they were on.
A variation of that is something I say now, often when remarking on people in our racket. We'll talk about the word we use to describe this.
Racket.
Our racket. People in our racket, quite often you'll hear, or somebody will hear me say, or I'll write, there are probably more people in our business racket, whatever you call it, who are interested in being somebody versus doing something.
Interesting. I like that.
And, if I am somebody, it's because I did something. It's because I've devoted myself to the craft. It's because I believe and have tried to create and continue to hone and refine an actual body of work.
Yeah.
Right. So, I think it's the same thing. I think it's either,
I like how you put it too. Say that part again.
Be somebody, versus do something. Most people in the business, especially and I think social media, exacerbates it. I play on social media and with video and things like that, but I don't really focus on it or weaponize it because I'm not sure. I'm ambivalent about. I have mixed emotions about. Yeah. About. I know it's potent.
Yeah.
I know it's potent.
Yeah.
But there's some. I think there's some fairly common unhealthy things that come from using it too much, participating in it too much.
100%, man.
And at the end of the day, I mean, I still very much am kind of a training missionary. My job is to go to them.
Yeah. I like that.
And
training missionary.
And train them. That's what missionaries do. You know? We bring them the word. The deepest, darkest places on the planet. Right? And that's what I do. And I believe in that. And I'll die doing it because it's what I do. And I may do some, cool, I don't know if I could do this or not. This is cool. I mean, the podcast thing. It is. It is. I like it. And I like participating in it. But, I'd have to have a freaking.
Oh, yeah. He's mine, though.
Kevin.
No, he's mine. He's mine.
I tried to poach him for some stuff earlier, man.
Why am I not surprised?
I tried to poach him. I was
Everybody
like, hey, man, I'm doing class in Bassett. Anyway, no, I'm still very much a believer that it's about going out, touching people, being there with them in person, and teaching people.
Yeah,
and I think that a lot of people who are in our racket,
Yeah.
Now younger people, different generation, or even older people, right, who have a voice now because of social media that they didn't have before. I think a lot of them, I just don't think they're very good instructors. I think their instructor, and I have reasons for that. I think their instructorship is lacking. I think I question their motivation to develop, hone, and refine their instructorship, their curriculum. And when I watch them comport themselves publicly, it's not that often it's them teaching. It's some motivational speaker piece where it's slowed down video, and be your best self, or something like that. I'm like, we're not motivational speakers, dude, and you're not that smart. That video makes you look cool.
That's it.
Right? Bottom line.
That's it.
But you're a freaking knuckle dragging gun nerd, right? That bottom line. Don't try and be something you aren't.
Quick word from our sponsor. We've been working with the folks at 1776 for comprehensive insurance of our firearms collections, and I'm really happy with how things are going so far. And one of my concerns is with the amount of commuting that I do with my firearms collection. What happens should my vehicle be broken into or stolen with my firearms? And there's reason to have this concern because there's 800,000 vehicles stolen per year in America. So it's not, it's a little bit more common than we might think. What I mentioned earlier is that they have a comprehensive insurance plan, which is that they will cover your firearms stolen out of your vehicle, or should your vehicle be stolen, cover the firearms that were in the vehicle. So that's pretty reassuring in a sense. So I've mentioned this before, but the process to apply is pretty easy. Approval is pretty quick. They do not require you provide a itemization or serialized numbers. There's no appraisal or schedules that you have to provide. So really all you want to do is just make sure you have proof of ownership, and that's it. So if you want to learn more about the folks from 1776 and insuring your firearms collection, visit 1776insurance.com.
Well, I'm glad you broached that subject because I feel like we can get into it right now.
All right.
We can touch on that because one of the things that we have that we share a passion about is and I reference it as the art and science of teaching, because there are both. There's the science about understanding how adults learn. Then there's the art form in how we individualize that and transfer that knowledge to our students.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I've always really enjoyed talking to you about is, we can talk about what's the coolest new gun or backpack or ammo or whatever, but I really do enjoy when we sit down and just talk about teaching.
Nerd out on instructorship.
Yes. Because things that I like in just that short little comment that you made, you mentioned words that are in many cases foreign to people. Curriculum is a big one. Like when I listened, and it's not that I'm trying to dissuade somebody from becoming an instructor. That's not what I'm about to do, not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to help them to understand is that being an instructor is more than just like, I don't know, going to so many classes and being good at whatever it is. Being an instructor means that you have to have an understanding of curriculum and what curriculum really is and how to deliver that curriculum in a way that is impacting, right? So you came into an industry that I would say we can go out on a limb and say was virtually non-existent. There were maybe a handful, I was very lucky. I was exposed to the idea early on in my military career, but it hadn't really taken foot everywhere else. So
yeah, and again, just for the audience, I purposefully don't use the word you just used to describe our racket industry.
Yeah, right? My bad. Mea culpa.
The firearms training industry, and my stance on that is, industries have standards.
True.
Right?
Yes.
There's the automotive industry. There is the, petrochemical industry.
Absolutely.
Our racket, our business, at best, we're a loose consortium of personality driven fiefdoms.
I
And
love
we
that.
kind of, kind of sort of begrudgingly move around each other or love each other or not.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But it's, I think calling it an industry, it makes us sound, I don't know, more organized and smarter than we really are, or more legitimate than we really are.
I will say this. Okay, you're absolutely right, because the industry has grown so much.
Yeah.
When I first kicked this, when I first started, like I can remember there's maybe like less than a dozen.
Yeah, and you started before me.
Yeah.
You Paul Howe and Suarez with the old Halo group,
Yeah.
at like 99 or something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. A long time ago.
Yeah.
But and you're right in that the industry, loosely used term, is a gaggle. It really is. And I might be naive in using the term industry. My goal, I guess one of my far-reaching goals is that we do develop an industry set of standards or an acknowledgement that they exist. And maybe not in our lifetime do we see them, but maybe they do materialize with time, because I believe that's important for the future generations, that we have to have something that organizes us because the way that you explained it is perfectly accurate, and our enemies know that.
So, okay. On that note, I don't have any desire to police and standardize the industry. What I do want to see is an uptick in the professionalism of young upcoming instructors. I'm very about that.
Correct.
Now whether that is whether we do that through policing the industry and telling people what they do and don't do and who is and who isn't a professional,
that would never work.
But it won't. Right? And that's why I'm really about mentorship.
Yes,
that's what
100%.
I do. And the problem with mentorship is that it's not scalable. I mean,
No.
I can only mentor.
It's so true.
A couple of people at a time, and I will never ever be an instructor paper mill. I will never create 40-hour wonders.
Yeah.
It's not what I do. So
it's frustrating because the way that we all look at the problem is that we are a ill-gotten racketeer, racket, if you will.
It's a racket.
And my future vision is one where we organize and we have continuity in some way or shape or form. And I feel like there's no way that that's going to happen by trying to stake a flag on a hilltop and saying it must be this way. The only thing that I see as a positive step in that direction is through leading, in a sense. Like this is what I believe. I'm trying to lead other potential instructors in that direction through my example that I'm trying to set.
And I think that's the best that we can do, because I hear people say stuff like, "Well, we're all pro 2A." So is the John Brown Gun Club, right? And they're a bunch of hardcore leftists.
Yeah.
And I have nothing in common with them other than we like guns and we like to shoot. We have no other core values. Yeah. So that's just not enough, right? For us to unify under.
It's true. It's a hard one. That's a one.
That we're not going to unify under that, right? Yeah. Absolutely not. So I think the best we can do, Jeff, at this point is just, try and be a good steward.
Exactly.
For what we do. And that doesn't mean we're perfect. And I tell people all the time, look, man, don't canonize me either,
yeah.
Okay. Just because I'm good at something. All right. That doesn't mean I'm good.
Yeah. Don't like that.
Don't conflate goodness. Right.
Yeah.
My intrinsic goodness.
Yeah.
My morality, my ethics, my values. Don't conflate that with my technical acumen in teaching and my instructorship.
Yeah.
They're not the same thing.
So,
And I think I have mostly good core values. I think about them all the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you get in trouble when you start believing your own press.
oh my God.
So I
100%.
I question myself daily more and more. Am I doing the right thing?
It's interesting that you
Why
bring
did I
that.
say that?
Yeah, well, that's a very good point to make, because one of the things that you can find as an instructor, one of the things that you can find yourself falling victim to is, I don't know how to say it right, but kind of like you fall into a camp and you just stay the course. Like early on, when I started in this industry, there were two camps: the Weaver or the Isosceles.
Or the Isosceles camp.
There's the
Now, are you in the gamer USPSA camp?
Yeah.
Are you in the hey, I want to run around. I'm a dentist and I want to run around with 50 grand worth of night vision and plate carriers and bail out of cars. And I'll never do that shit, but I like doing it.
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna tell me how to spend my money.
Yeah.
That camp. Are you in the, hey man, if you're not a purple belt and incorporating guns, knives, and blackjacks into every session that you roll with, if you're not an entangled gunfighter, I'm in that camp, right? Or I'm an old fuddy guy with revolvers and 1911s, and I'm wearing a red shirt and a fishing vest, running around on a golf cart in Florida at a range, pissing everybody off. You're in that camp too, right? We have all these. We have all these, that you just saw that guy, didn't you?
I did.
You just saw that guy
I know
this past
exactly
weekend. You were in Florida.
I know exactly who you're
It's
talking
the worst
about.
range culture in the country. It's awful. Where they find those guys, they always have 1911s.
Oh yeah.
They always wear red shirts, fishing vests. Ride around in golf carts and just scowl at you.
So
it's a lot of camps.
That was a lot more camps than I was thinking.
But that's my point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many, and there are other ones that I'm not even.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I'm not even.
Totally true.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that, I don't know where they all came from. I don't know what motivated them or how they came to be in existence and what the purpose is behind them. And what I try to tell people is like, hey, look, I'm not here to tell you what camp to be in. Don't care. You want to do the fantasy camp? Great. You want to do, the I got to get my pee-pee smacked every time I'm out there camp? Great. Whatever. What I try to get across to people is like, I'm here to try to prepare you for an authentic and real just a terrible event. Bottom line, the worst event you could possibly imagine ever happening to you in your life. And what my job is to get you comfortable in that setting. That's it. And what you do with this information, how you choose to use that information, that's on you from that point on.
Yeah, I think a prospective student, when looking at the industry now,
you just used the term.
I absolutely did, and I did it on purpose. I absolutely did it on purpose. When looking because it's easier to say than write.
I know. Me too. Sometimes I do the same thing.
I'll concede for the conversation.
Yes, fair enough. Duly noted.
But I think it goes along, and this is one of the reasons I continue to put myself out there in podcasts. I'm very out there. I mean, there are gazillions of podcasts and stuff that I've been on. And it's important to me to put myself out there and answer as many questions and just be myself. I think now that people have the advantage in the information age of being able to look at an instructor, and try and assess what their core values are. Because I do think core values, and that's an overused term, that phrase is overused. And with a lot of things in life where it's bandied about, it's not important. Like I could give a shit about somebody's core values when I'm buying tacos. There's some Austin hipster taco place. And I want to know, hey man, you guys have good tacos? Well, our core values. I don't give a shit about your core values. Okay?
Are they good tacos?
Are they good tacos?
I'm 100%.
Right. That guy. But I think when it comes to self-defense instruction, with or without weapons, right? You might want to start looking at some core values.
That's a good point.
With the people. So that's where I would direct people first is when you're evaluating an instructor, are they putting themselves out there authentically, answering questions off the cuff, saying things that may very well, maybe politically incorrect, but you know who that person is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Saying things that are risky, taking risk, have these conversations. So I think, first of all, fundamentally, does an instructor believe that the one thing that's really, truly the universal human right is the right to self-defense.
100%.
Everybody has that right.
Yep.
We believe in that
Yep.
right. I believe that everybody has that right right off the bat, and our job is to serve those people. Now, there are some people realistically that I won't serve, Does a criminal have the right to self-defense? Does a child molester have the right to self-defense? A guy, right? This is the whole, is it okay to punch a Nazi argument?
Yes.
Right? Does a Nazi who's minding his own business, expressing himself hatefully?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
But there's a First Amendment.
Yeah.
Right before that Second Amendment.
Yeah.
Does that guy have the right to defend himself from violence? Right?
If it's a rhetorical question, or if you're asking me,
it's a tricky, but it's a tricky, right? It's a difficult conversation to have, especially if you want to have it nuanced. And you rely on people to come take self-defense instruction from. It's like, oh, Craig said that Nazis have the right to self-defense. Fuck that guy. I'm not standing with him. White cracker dude. No way. Right. That's a risky thing to say.
It is.
Does that guy have the right to self-defense? Yeah. Just asking the question
is tricky.
Right.
Yeah.
It's risky. So, I'm willing to have these conversations. I'm willing to take risk. And I do believe that everybody fundamentally has it right. So, those are core values, right? That I am talking about, that I believe in, that I'm willing to put out there. Yeah. Because I think it's important that people have that information. Yeah. Because there's so many, like you said, where did all the camps and tribes and schools of thought, where do those people come from? Fuck, I don't know either.
I have no clue, man.
But they're everywhere. So getting good information. In fact, we had this discussion the other night on actually another podcast is I think is easier in many ways. And more difficult in others, but still, here's what it comes down to. It comes down to word of mouth, and it comes down to what I think of as the good dude barometer. So the good dude barometer, right? If somebody who I think of as a good dude and thinks of me as a good dude says, hey, Craig, do you know Jeff Gonzalez? Good dude. That's all they need to hear. They don't need to hear anything more about your resume. That's all they need to hear. Yeah. Versus if a good dude who thinks I'm a good dude says, hey man, what about Jeff Gonzalez? Yeah, I know him. and that quite often, and that's why I call it the good dude barometer. Yeah. Because if I hear from a good dude that other guy's a good dude, that's all I need. Yeah. So I really think that a lot of this, right, as far as making good choices, comes down to, hey, the good dude said you're a good dude, so here I am.
I love that.
Because it still is very much about people. Yeah. Right? I mean, we can slick this shit up, and we can social media our ass off. Yeah. We'll use it as a verb. Yeah. Right. I like and have that. Flashy videos. Yeah. And slow stuff down, and have like cool action sequences with motivational sayings. Be your best self. Like you're a Nike commercial. Dude, you're a goon with a gun. Okay. Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Bottom line. Yeah. I think still it comes down to that. Yeah. It comes down to the good dude barometer.
I like that. You know, and it's so funny because I hadn't thought of it exactly in those terms, but I can think of conversations just as recently coming back from a SHOT Show where I've had conversations there. Somebody asked me something, and without really even thinking about it, my response is, you know, I don't think I said he's a good dude, but I said virtually the same thing in some other phrase. And it just came out without even giving it a second thought. And
Yeah, it could be, oh yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Right?
but my point,
Whatever-
exactly.
Whatever your authentic expression
Yes.
is of approval
Yes,
is the good dude barometer.
100%.
That's what it is,
And-
right? And people know it, and that's all they need.
So we talked a little bit earlier before we started recording about the you know, like the current trend of video analysis and how prevalent it is these days. And one of the things that I've started to also see, and you see it in like articles or even videos, like who's your instructor? What's their qualifications? What's their resume? And it's valuable because there are some people out there that probably shouldn't hang a shingle and have. And I had somebody that sent me an email. It was a very well thought out email, and it was basically trying to validate who I was. And I hadn't received one of those, and God, I can't remember how long, like over 8-10
Yeah,
years.
you're mid-50s, Jeff Gonzalez, Navy SEAL. How can you not know who I am?
I don't want to sound douchey, but
Do you
like
not know me?
I definitely didn't say that.
Yeah, I recently went off privately about someone very prolific in our racket who said that very thing.
Yeah. Interesting.
Publicly.
No way.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, the thing that kind of struck me was like, I'm like, huh. So I looked at it from 2 points of view. All right. This person, and this is the direction that I went. This person is, he's genuinely interested in the information that he's going to receive, and he wants to vet it to the best of his ability. All right, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that that's the deal, and maybe he has made this part of his process for all the other instructors that he goes to. Sends them this kind of email. All right, fair enough. I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. And then the other side was like, delete.
Right. Right.
That was true. I mean,
if
like,
you don't know who I am, why are you sending me an email?
Yeah,
right. There's that side of your personality.
It's so
type
true.
thing.
I'm not going to lie.
It's ego.
It is. That's
it's
why
ego.
I like my thought process was, well, wait a minute. Like, hold on. Let me back up a little bit. So you're saying that you're sending me this message, this email asking for my who I am, why I do what I do, or how I do what I do. And I started to think about that. I'm like, okay, I gave the guy the benefit of the doubt, but then part of me was like, the delete button was it was like glaring. And the reason why it was so glaring was like, wait a minute, what kind of homework did you do before you sent me this email? Did you just find my name somewhere and just say, oh, I don't know who this guy is, let me just email him? Because that would have been telling too. That would have said to me that this person didn't bother to do a little bit of research, because it really wouldn't have taken long to punch my name in with, put gun, firearm, seal, whatever, and it would have probably pulled up something about me. And so my question to him would have been, did you do any research on your own first? Did you do any kind of work on your end, or are you relying solely on me to answer your question?
Right. Absolutely.
That's the kind of thing that sometimes bothers me.
And here's the other thing too, Jeff. How important is the resume? Because here's the deal.
Yes, that's where I wanted to go. Thank you for money.
You as well as I know, that there are plenty of douchebags.
Took you a while to come up with that.
Who it did. who live at CAG, DevGru, Orange, MARSOC, the Ranger Regiment, all the freaking special forces groups, and they have the resume, right? They have the resume. Is the resume the man?
Good point.
Is the resume the man? It's
paper.
Right. It is paper.
Yeah.
It is paper. We know plenty of people who probably shouldn't be in those places. We know people who are very capable, who are not good people. We know people who got lucky. we know people who did real well and can't tell you why they did.
Yeah.
Oh,
100%.
Just combat, man. It's Murphy. Thanks. Okay. That's helpful.
That's a good one.
That helps me get better.
Yeah.
Right? Can you introduce me to Murphy? Yeah, just do it. Just do it. Just be aware. Right? It's my awareness and mindset rant.
Oh, God. That's a good one.
The two words in the business that everybody thinks are verbs.
Yes. Mindset and awareness. I love that.
I will aware my way out of this dark alley. Oh, mindset the shit out of you when you have me mounted, punching me in the face.
That's a good one.
Awareness.
Feel my mindset. My mindset is coming at you.
Awareness and mindset are not verbs.
Okay, I had to take a moment there. That was good.
Awareness, you're not going to mindset your way out of anything.
No.
Dude.
So we're back to the resume, and I feel like sometimes the pendulum can swing the opposite direction. What I mean by that is, yeah, there are those guys that just have the pedigree. They do, and maybe they are not. Maybe they have the pedigree, but they just can't convey that information. And there's a lot of guys that are like that. That doesn't make them bad people. That just means that they don't have the best delivery methods. Maybe they get them, maybe they don't. I don't know. But then there's the other side. And I feel like that other side, rather than being good at what they do, they try to create a, I don't know what the word is for it, but they try to create a validation process through stuff like that.
Yeah, it's horse shit, right?
Yes.
I mean, it really is. I mean, me being a 19-year-old E3, in the Ranger Regiment in 1987, and Stan McChrystal being my company commander at ACO 375.
That's awesome, man.
Has shit not to do with who I am and what I teach now. And I other than, humping an Alice Large with a bent frame. What's
favorite.
the relevance of that?
Yes.
To anything I teach now. So I mean, it would, and I don't, it's not relevant.
Yeah. So, but where I was going to was that a lot of these other folks are trying to create relevancy. I guess the way I'm trying to articulate this is that maybe they don't have that pedigree. And so they're trying to validate what they have by, in some cases, trying to devaluate what those others have.
No, I agree with that too. And it goes both ways. I think I see commandos who have legitimate commando backgrounds, whose idea of low vis is throwing a man dress over their battle gear and walking to a soft skin vehicle. They don't know me. They don't know I'm a white guy. Really?
But I have a beard.
Yeah, they do.
But I have a beard.
Yeah, they do. They know you're a white guy. Dude. They know you're a soldier.
Oh my God.
They do.
Yeah,
they do.
totally.
The man dress doesn't help, right? I'm low vis. I did low vis work.
Yeah.
You did low vis work with wearing a man dress. You walked across the street, got in a soft skin vehicle. Or so that's the one side of it.
Yeah.
That's one side of it. The other side of it is the person with no experience who takes a bunch of classes.
Yes.
They've never been in an armed profession. They didn't serve in the military, never in law enforcement, didn't do security work, no trauma to speak of, didn't grow up in an inner city, no experience, nothing experiential. They start taking classes and then they're like, I like doing that. I want to teach. Right. A lot of those people, because they feel wanting on the resume side, are like, well, it's all about a very specific context. I'm an average person doing an average thing. Because I'm average, I think it's best that I teach other average people about being average. So it becomes this real, closed loop kind of circuitous thing, but they're both sides, right?
Absolutely.
When it comes to actual relevancy, it comes to both sides. That's two opposite ends of the spectrum right there.
Well, you're absolutely right. And we originally started on the subject of curriculum, and we kind of went down this rabbit hole. I want to kind of come back to curriculum because I still thoroughly enjoy talking curriculum with you. And so since we are on the subject of these other folks that are in the industry, if you had to like give somebody a single piece of advice related to curriculum that is looking to do maybe not the same thing that we do, but they're pursuing something, what's that single piece of advice regarding curriculum?
They don't need another tool in the toolbox.
What do you mean by that?
At some point, you have to stop collecting tools and actually build something.
I love it. Okay. Fair enough.
Curriculum development
yes,
should be reductionist, congruent, and strategically and tactically binary in what you're trying to accomplish.
Interesting.
Plan A, plan B, couple of ways to execute. That's it.
Yeah.
They don't have the hard drive space really for any more than that in a real world event.
So
say less, say more with less. It's not about more words. It's about fewer words that are right. Reduce it.
I like that.
Stop adding things to. You don't need another tool in the toolbox.
So
you need to build something.
I like, first of all, that metaphor is fantastic, but give me a little bit more detail. Like give me something as an example.
So, for example, specifically within my the ShivWorks, as we call it, the base of and strategy for using wrestling in a weapons-based environment. Okay. We have a technique that we call a split seatbelt. Sometimes you'll hear it called a mouse trap. Sometimes you hear it called a Dagestani handcuff, but it's where from an underhook, I drop that into a seatbelt, go around his hip, over his arm, and have one hand in front, one hand in back, and I have a 2-on-1 on the far side limb and the other one kind of bound. We like that technique because we use it for a takedown. We use it for entangled striking. We use it to free a hand up and produce a weapon. So because we can do so many things with it, right? It has so much utility. There's so much congruency with that. We use it standing. We use it on the ground to pass from half guard. We do all kinds of things with that. That has value, and that is a good reason to include that in the curriculum because we do so much with it versus having a number of, if I have one thing within the curriculum that does, especially when we're teaching people who we may never see again. We can't count on there being sustainment. These aren't a bunch of BJJ practitioners, right?
Yeah.
And as we both know, especially with most armed populations, they tend to be disinterested and ambivalent. They're not enthusiasts.
Yeah.
You know, Matt Larson and Greg Thompson and I were on a podcast a couple of years ago, but one of the things we talked about was training professionals and the difference between that and training an enthusiast. I'd much rather train an enthusiast, a person that's into it.
Yeah, 100%.
Armed populations, people that do this for a living, are largely, especially when it comes to niche tactics and hand-to-hand work, they are disinterested and ambivalent at best. So teaching them, right, never going to see them again, they don't care. That especially with those people, you don't need 4 different things to do 4 different things. I need one thing that does 4 different things good enough. And to quote John Danaher, don't let perfect be the enemy of good enough.
So true, man. I love that.
So when you look at constructing curriculum, right, what are the fewest things that I can have that I can teach that do the stuff I need to do good enough so they get more reps. Because the fewer stuff you have, the more reps you get on them, right?
Man, that's a great way.
So reductionist, congruent, and strategically and tactically binary. Plan A, plan B. In wrestling, plan A, take their back. That doesn't work. Plan B is to go for a tie-up. We have 2 ways to get to the back: duck under, arm drag. Binary. Plan B, 2 ways to lock your limbs down, a split seat belt and a bundle. Which one you take depends on who's holding the underhook. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the strategy we use. I teach that, and the pressure, posture, and position, and then 4 basic attachments, stabilize. I have a 4-hour module where I take a person that's never wrestled before and I teach them enough wrestling to be able to hold on and to get a gun out. And I have been told by Div 1 wrestlers and third dans under Henzo, wow, you'd have never had me believe that after 4 hours, a person that's never wrestled before is giving me trouble.
Wow.
But they are.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And that's all I care about, right? For what I'm trying to do with wrestling for the average person to get a pistol out with someone right on top of them. So that's what I would advise people.
I like that.
I would advise people, look for what you can throw away, not for what you can add. Look to do, in developing curriculum and constructing curriculum, look to do more with less. And if you have a problem that pops up that you don't have an immediate technique or solution for, the first place you should look is within the curriculum to see if there's something we can repurpose that's structurally similar that we can do that with. We had this problem with Naval Special Warfare. We're out there, and me and Scotty are out there at IP when we work with the kids from the combative schoolhouse because they use our curriculum. And they're trying to figure out, well, we need to do this, and we want to add this technique. And it's like, well, why don't we do this that we already have, and let's kind of repurpose it and see if that works well. And they're like, oh, we do have the answer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you looking outside of the curriculum for a solution?
I love it.
Can you solve it with something inside the curriculum?
So,
right? And that was a very cogent. So guys, you don't need more shit.
Yeah.
Okay. You need to get better with what you have and have a deeper understanding of what you have.
So this reminds me of CQB, and I loved the assaults. I love the assault program. I love teaching the assault program. I loved being on the assault itself. And one of the things that I can remember vividly early on is there was a response for everything that we ran into. And you,
a TTP.
Yes. You had whether you were the low man on a high-low, or whether you were dealing with a center fed, or whether you were the top guy on the stairwell, whatever. There was always like, okay, I'm the top guy. That means I have to do this. And when, I can't remember exactly when it was, but I was teaching the 250 class at Gunsight, which has simulators. They get to go into like indoor simulators, and the methodology. Like I can remember, I'm like, oh, we can't teach this in 6 hours and then have them do 2-hour practical. There's just no way that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Because I was coming from the assaulter's mentality.
You came also from the formulaic approach to problem solving.
Interesting. What do you mean by that?
If he does this, you do this.
Right.
If this problem happens, you do this problem.
Right.
It's linear.
Yes.
You didn't come from, and nobody was trained in the how does it work.
So when I got
global theater level idea of thinking.
So, well, I think that's eventually where I got, and I'm curious.
You do?
Yeah, because the thing that when I realized was, okay, I have to not water it down, but streamline it down. And I have to give these folks some simple tools that they can use should they have to move from their bedroom to their children's room, whatever. And it redefined everything. And then that happened. And then I think Columbine happened not too long after that. I can't remember which one came first, but it was very, very, very close proximity. And we got a call to start. We got a call about, the tactics at the time. And when we started teaching, I broke it down Barney style, like, okay, I've got 3 days to teach you something that, we spend 6 weeks on. So we're going to basically, we're going to use this, even if it's not like according to the gospel, the technique to use on this corner, we're going to use the same thing that you used to make entry into the room by yourself.
Yeah. You have to have that. You have to do that because you'll never get past hey man, you dig a corner, run the rabbit.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? So and you'll fight over that shit forever.
Oh my God, all day long. Yeah. But in the end, in the end, what I was trying to get across to them was you don't need perfect. You need good enough. And what I found was the more, and you mentioned it earlier, the more looks they got at that problem, the faster they were able to solve it using the tools that they already had.
Yeah. And
the hard part, and I'm sure you can sympathize with this, was for them to let go of that other mentality, the formulative mentality that you had mentioned, for them to let go and just solve the problem with this tool. It's not going to be the best. It's not, you don't have the time to be the best. You don't have that luxury. And it was hugely successful. And I loved it. We called it, our program was called Active Hostage Rescue. And I love teaching that program because it just really redefined how we look at assaults in general. And there was no reason why we couldn't do those assaults, not just from a single or a 2-man team, but all the way up to, full on team assaults. There's no reason why we couldn't do that. And it was like, even though we were exposed to initiative-based tactics early on, it wasn't necessarily.
You have to have a deep well of knowledge to use initiative-based tactics. I mean, because really, what is a TTP? What is a TTP? Besides what the acronym is, what exactly is it?
I suppose the way I would define it is that it is
a best practice.
Oh, there you go. Okay, I hadn't thought.
Best practice.
Yes, best practice for solving the problem.
Situational, right? A best practice that's situational.
Yeah.
Here's another thing a TTP usually is. It's a hack for a superficial level of knowledge.
I could see that.
If I have a deep base of knowledge, the techniques are absolutely situational.
Okay. I could see that.
You don't have to tell me what to do.
Right.
I know what to do. I know what to do in CQB based on initiative, angles, depth, pace, flow.
Mm-hmm.
I have deep core knowledge of how it works. TTPs don't tell you how things work. They tell you what to do.
Yeah.
And that's that's what I mean by the formulaic approach.
I gotcha.
If he does this, you do this.
Yeah.
If this happens, you do this. When you teach in that formulaic way, you're telling people what to do.
Yeah.
Now, early on in an education, there has to be some level of that.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that we see more and more in motor learning is when we introduce much earlier, this is how it works, and give people model or let them try some various kinds of execution, that I think that's a better way. And we give them a lot of reps and experience. Because here's the thing, adults learn experientially, right? That's the difference between pedagogy and andragogy. Fundamentally, the tool schools of thought. Adults learn by doing. We have to facilitate their experience. If we're telling them what to do nonstop, we're not facilitating their experience. It needs to be done with a minimal of instruction. That's why I say it's not about more words, it's about the right words.
So true.
So, for example, when I teach invariably, as I do with 2 of the 4 open enrollment courses that I teach, when I teach my module, Managing Unknown Contacts, right? And how to do that. Invariably, in the process of managing unknown contacts, someone will say, this is awesome. How does it work when I'm with my wife?
Oh, sure.
Or my kid?
Yeah.
Or I'm like, a third party?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's because that's what all those are. Those are third party issues. Doesn't matter if it's your wife, a coworker, first branch, are they part of the solution, part of the problem? Or actually, first branch is, do you care about them? Do you not care about them? Second branch is, are they part of the solution, part of the problem? But nonetheless, because it exceeds the scope of the class, and because I don't want to get mired down in a tactics discussion, here's what I'll tell them. Look, man, here's how it works. And there are different ways to express this.
Okay.
You cannot put anyone you care about in space that you have not visually cleared. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm walking with my wife and I've got her, right here in my arm and I'm approached by a bad guy, I can't go and sweep her behind me because I haven't had eyes on what is behind me.
Yeah.
And especially if it's a pinch or assault.
Oh, yeah.
Where I'm being, focused by the known while the unknown is creeping, more than likely that guy's going to come on the 6, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I tell people. Look, things like that, okay, where I put something or someone I care about into uncleared space, that's a no-no.
Mm-hmm.
That's a no-no. So that's how it works. Now, how you do that, whether you push, pull, move, tether, don't tether, say go, right? What's the plan? There are different ways to execute that, but you can't put someone in a space you haven't visually cleared. That's how it works. Go do it.
Yeah.
So I'm teaching them, and they may come up with something very cool and adroit in the moment if they understand how it works. And they're given some tactics and techniques on how to execute that's modeled.
Yeah.
Right. Because here's the thing at the end of the day, as you know, and there was no roadmap for fighting in a car, and trying to keep my brains from getting blown out. Right. I had to figure that shit out.
Yeah.
So my point on this is that there are going to be situations that people run into, as I ran into, that there is no school book solution for.
Yeah.
There is no TTP for that.
Yeah.
And if you've ever been unfortunate enough to be in a situation where, we don't know how to do that. We've never seen that problem.
Yeah.
Those are the people I deal with now professionally. Like, hey man, we had this thing happen.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
Actually, I have.
Yeah.
Right? Something like that.
Nice.
Right? We had, whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. But the point is, and if you don't understand how it works, you will not be able to solve the problem.
Interesting.
So I think early on, teaching people how it works, giving them some ways to execute that and say, look, what you have, what's the end state? You know what you have to accomplish. Got to get from here to here.
Yeah.
It's the best way to do that. You walk, you drive, you do cartwheels, you pole vault.
Only on Sundays.
Right. But my point is, I think we're, and here's another thing that I suspect. I suspect the reason we're still bound by formulaic training goes back to the motivation that a lot of people teach from, which is they like hearing themselves talk. They want to be somebody.
Yeah.
They want to hold a rapt audience.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of it that way.
If I catch you fish, Jeff, I can bullshit all day long and tell you stories and sit you at my knee. If I teach you how to fish, you're not listening to me.
It's true. I like that point of view. And I'm thinking back to just this weekend, and I get annoyed. And I hate to say this, but I do get annoyed when we're not on the firing line, when we're not out there getting the reps in. I'm not there to entertain or tell stories. I'm there to create a structured environment for you to learn. And that learning takes place on the firing line.
Well, and you're also there to make sure they get good reps.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's that.
So one of the ways that I get okay with people not physically training is looking at them and knowing, their cup runneth over. They need a break. They
yes, absolutely
need to check their phones, pee, BS for a while.
Yeah.
Tell a funny story.
Yeah.
And usually on breaks, I try not and talk about curriculum. I mean, and somebody's going to want to, you know how that guy is,
absolutely.
right? He's going to want to pigeonhole you.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I got 9 minutes. I got to pee. We'll check my phone. I return a phone call.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to ask you about this. Blah. Right.
Yeah.
But that's what you're there for.
Yep.
So you deal with it.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, okay.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because I feel like that's almost exactly what happens every class. We'll take a short break, and when I'm mingling during the break, I'm trying to get a vibe. How are they feeling? How are they doing?
Yeah.
Have they reached that kind of like the threshold, if you will?
And the biggest, one of the biggest things that drives that is weather.
Oh God.
I mean,
oh yeah, always.
I have literally cut a live fire portion in half because it's 44 degree constant pissy rain.
Yeah.
And guys are struggling with outerwear, right?
Yeah.
And the slow rain is pooling on their shoulders, the little pockets for their jackets, and it comes down into their crotch or goes down the back of their neck. And they're wearing gloves, but now the gloves are wet.
Yeah.
And they take the gloves off. Now my hands are cold and wet. And now their hands are trembling while they've got striker fired guns.
Oh.
And it's like, you know what? That's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough.
That's too funny.
We're not going to get any more reps today.
Right? That's the mark of I would say not just a seasoned instructor, but an instructor that understands their job very well.
Yeah.
Because if your job is to ensure that these folks leave competent and with the right tools that they need to go out and continue to develop their competency, it's a different story. And like there have been several times weather related, or there might be an occasional other issue that pops up, but mostly you're right, it's weather, where I really have to rethink, or in some cases we have to tone down the evolution. We have to slow them down.
And what and there are a couple of things here, right? I think with the instructor with the right motivation, he's always going to be like, man, I need to suck it up and be out here for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
The other guy is like, I'm out here, and it's a tough man contest, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, looking at them and really looking at them, are they getting good reps?
That's the key.
Are they getting good reps, or are they needlessly suffering?
So the way that I answer that question, because everything that we do is based around standards. There's that ugly word, standards. So when I start to see their performance, because they've established baselines through the class, so we can kind of see when I recognize that it's either hot, it's cold, they're wet, they're tired, and I see their performance start to degrade. That's the time. It's not, that's the time to kind of circle up. And a lot of times during that break, I'll bring that up to them. I'm like, hey, it's hot, it's cold, you're tired, you're hurt, whatever. Your performance is starting to suffer.
Right.
We have choices. You can, we're going to take a break right now, but the choice when we get back to the firing line is this. You can acknowledge that this is, becoming more difficult, more challenging. And now I need to be a little bit more focused and a little bit more determined to try to do the best that I can. Or we can change and do things that don't require as much concentrated effort, so that we're not adding bad reps.
Bad reps. Yeah. 100%, dude. I mean, that's, it's interesting because some people I've heard some guys justify leaving students in bad weather, excessive bad weather, right? Way too cold, way too hot.
Oh man, dude.
You need to be able to perform under the worst conditions possible. And this is part of that process is me teaching you how to be inured to the elements. And here's the thing, especially if it's an open enrollment class, it's like,
they're not there for that.
They're not going to make a movement to contact. Okay. an extended greenside infantry movement to contact, humping a rug before they have to perform. Okay.
Oh, God.
These are soccer moms. These are jujitsu dads.
Yeah.
And
It's so
they're
funny.
regular people. So stop that silliness too. That's dumb.
Well, here's another one. I'll leave you with this one. When that becomes more about the instructor and less about the students.
Yeah. Yes.
And that to me is the mark of somebody that's just not, either they're not in it for the right reasons, or they're completely oblivious to the simple fact that their job is to improve the performance of their students. This isn't either, if you are left with no other choice, if it's going to rain and be in the 40s for both days, obviously you're going to have to accommodate to make some inroads, but you also need to take a step back and start looking at your curriculum and realize, okay, what are the absolute essentials that I get through?
Yeah.
That's what I think marks the difference between a seasoned and well-knowledgeable instructor and somebody that's just going to push through the curriculum as is and say, suck it up.
That has no training value.
Absolutely.
I can pare this down and we can make this up.
It's
on a better,
and I'm brutally honest with
next
people.
day. Yeah.
I tell people this. I'm like, if you were to come back to this class 2 years from now or 1 year from now, you're going to be like, wait a minute, we didn't do that. I'm like, yeah, we didn't, because we modified the curriculum to accommodate for the environment that we were in.
Right.
And what we focused on was the terminal objectives, the essentials to this class, the reason why you signed up, whatever that is. That's what we focused on. We cut back on some of the supporting stuff, things that might be fun to do, things that might, be entertaining to do. We cut those out and we just focused on the meat.
Filler. And here's the thing: the mark of a professional is someone who doesn't feel, or one of the many marks of a professional is someone who they take teaching seriously. They don't take themselves seriously, and they also they're just not. They're not gonna drive people like that. It's
not like the thing that bothers me a lot of times about that. Like, I came from that environment, so I can understand.
We all did.
Yeah,
right.
I get it. I don't see, like, there was a time when, for me, when I looked at my curriculum, I'm here to teach this curriculum.
You had that. You had that reputation when I came in. To the industry.
Back then we were doing 3-day classes. Back then we were.
You had that reputation.
Oh yeah.
It's like Jeff Gonzalez. Like, that dude has standards. That was a common, and it was always said like in 2003, 2004, people would say Jeff Gonzalez. He actually has standards.
I laugh about that because, that's all the rave now, standards. I'm like, welcome to the club. It's like, appreciate that.
20-something, over 20 years worth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
People
appreciate you bringing that to the table.
But I can remember people saying that was something you were known for. And more importantly, like, standards that were enforced.
Yeah. That was the tough part.
You didn't get a certificate from Jeff because you didn't meet the standard.
You still don't.
Right?
That's been one of the hardest things in my position, is that, we don't issue certificates.
Accountability.
Yeah. We don't issue certificates just because you registered. Like, I tell people, like, your registration fee did one thing, and that was it bought you a space on the firing line. Your performance is what's going to dictate whether or not you get a certificate at the end of the class. And I think people have come to appreciate it. There's always people that get pissed off, their ego's bruised, their butt hurt, whatever. I don't really I don't get too upset about them. What I appreciate is the folks that come up to me and they're like, wow, you know what? I'm really disappointed in myself. I didn't do well, and I now know where I need to work. And they come back maybe the next year or the following year and they just crush it. Yeah. They put the time in to do the work and actually get better. And then before you know it, they're back there just owning everything. So I love that. Let me ask you this. We talked about this earlier about trying to mentor people. What's the best advice you were given by a mentor?
The best advice I was given by, I'd have to think about that.
Yeah.
The best advice I was given by a mentor. Gee. I can't remember who told me this. That's the problem.
That's all right. You don't have
But it was like,
if it impacted you, that's all that matters.
It was mentoring.
Mm-hmm.
And and I believe it. And I tell people I mentor this, it's not about you. It's about them.
Man, dude,
It's not about you.
I almost had somebody say almost the exact same words.
Yeah.
Almost the exact same words. I was a young frogman, just full of piss and vinegar. And it was my platoon chief. And he pulls me aside and he kind of dressed me down that same way. It's not about you.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget it. I was like, I was really, when he pulled me aside to say that to me, afterwards I was embarrassed because then it made sense. I was like, oh shit, dude, man, that sucks. So that made an impact in my career, I think. And I like to think that I changed moving forward. I might have every now and then still do that. But for the most part, it became, it was always about the team. It was always about the guys. It was always about the mission, that kind of thing. And it's not that I didn't have that in my mind, but I did things to others outside of our group that didn't help support, kind of thing. So I like that. That's a very important thing. Now,
and there are things that I do and teach my guys to do, to really little hacks, little things to foment culture.
I like that.
Like we try not to call them students.
Okay.
Call them patrons.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of brilliant people that do coursework with us, and any one of them could have the podium and we could be their student. By framing them as patrons.
Okay.
What it keeps in the forefront of our mind is that they pay our bills.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And they have allowed us to, monetize our passion.
Yeah.
We don't suffer employment.
Yeah.
Because of that.
So I use the term clients. When I'm on the firing line, sometimes I will delineate between, the instructors and the students and whatnot, but I reference them to my staff as clients.
Yeah. I like patrons because I'm the starving artist,
I like that.
And they, it's their donation and it's their patronage.
Yes.
That allows me to express my art.
Yeah. I love that. That actually has some beauty to it. All right.
Not as pretty as you, Jeff.
No, that's all right though. Don't worry. This is a good question. I love this question. How do you deal with failure?
How do I deal with failure? Man, I like it. I like it.
Tell me more.
I like it. I like it when things don't go my way. I like it when I fail at things. Because it's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to figure out what led up to the failure, what my thought process was that led up to me failing. Why did I get it wrong?
Yeah.
Because what you'll find is it's usually not a failure in a moment. It's a failure way
I see what you're
back
saying. Yeah.
Led up.
I gotcha. Okay.
To that. It was something you got wrong that led to the big wrong.
Gotcha. I like
and
that.
that's what I like, because I like figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
And I like
it's interesting.
Unwinding myself.
I think that is a tough thing for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that successful people will take advantage of that opportunity to grow from it and to take that information and actually use it as part of their cultivation to get better. And
I seek failure. I look for it.
Oh,
I don't remember anything I did well. I remember everything I really fucked up.
Oh my God. I love hearing that because that's so funny. The mistakes that I made may not be cumulative more than all the things I got right, but they left more of an impact.
They always do
on the things that and it's so funny. I mean, there's a great analogy, loss aversion, the fear of losing whatever is so powerful that, even if the win is, supposedly good, the loss is so empowering that's all that you focus on. And I like to think of my failures. There are some that are huge, big failures in my life. And I'm at a point maturity wise, and I hate to say it like that because, my father will probably listen to this and he'd be like, but I'm at a point where I can actually appreciate those failures more. The failures that I did when I was younger, the big ones, particularly with the family, with the kids, things like that. Those are ones that I'm trying to reconcile with. But the bottom line is I think people get wrapped around the axle with failures.
Yeah. And it's intrinsic to my coursework.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially in my coursework.
Yeah.
It's where you're not on the firing line. You're wearing a helmet.
Yeah.
And you're getting punched in the face trying to get a T-gun out in a mount, and that it's so potent that they have that experience.
So that's one of the things that I think I've mentioned that in the intro, like the hallmark for your programming is that the introduction of violence to people that are not accustomed to violence.
Yeah.
Like that, I believe, is the hallmark, the legacy in a sense of your programming, is that you have created such a well-organized and delivered program that allows the average person to come in and get world-class training that at one point was reserved for tier 1 or special operations type entities. And I don't think people really have that understanding. Now they just look at it as like, but if they really understood where it came from and where we have grown as an industry, there would be a whole hell of a lot more appreciation, I think, for what that actually does. And the honest truth, some people like it, some people don't. The people that like it, though, they become like addicted to it.
They do. So I tell people it's a course of instruction and an experience.
Yes.
There are lots of courses of instruction that aren't really experiences. ECQC and Edged Weapons Overview, those two classes, all 4 of my open enrollment classes are experiences, but they're that way by design.
Yeah.
It wasn't conscious design at the very beginning, right?
Yeah.
But I came to understand, because here's what would happen. I'd have a guy do an extreme close quarters concepts course in ECQC, and then, he'd just, be wrecked at the end of it and said, "What do I need to do? You need to lose some weight." Seriously, you need to lose some weight. And I would see, and I would see that guy a year later and think he was a new student. He was not an alumni, and he'd be like, "Hey, Craig," I'm like, "Have you had you?" Like, "Yeah, it's
so-and-so
it's Danny." I'm like, "Holy shit, Danny, how much weight have you lost?" 80 pounds. So I've had, and it's funny because, I was the closing speaker for John Wellborn at Power Athlete at the coaches symposium that they did. And what I asked him, what do you want me to talk about? He's like, the whole doing hard shit thing. Doing things that are uncomfortable. I'm like, okay. So, but basically what it turned out was I kind of tied in the genesis of ShivWorks with Brene Brown's work.
Interesting.
And, so basically the whole thing was about loss, shame, vulnerability, and grace, and what all these things mean, especially the distinctions between, and this is her work, between vulnerability and shame.
Interesting.
But that's one of the reasons people make the changes that they do, besides the potency of the experience, how emotive it is. It's a very, very public exercise in vulnerability with strangers.
Yeah, so true, man.
And the biggest part of my job is facilitating a safe place to do that.
100%. 100%.
Where nobody gets laughed at.
Yeah.
When there's 10 alumni and 10 new people, that new person feels that gun getting torn out of their hand, and there's a stranger, 50 pounds heavier on them, and his knees on their chest, and make that awful, helpless sound.
Yeah.
That squawk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nobody laughs because everybody's done it and everybody's been there.
100%.
It's horrific.
Yeah.
And it feels like you're drowning.
Yeah.
And we are inflicting trauma on people when we do that in a measured, supportive way that creates connection with other people. And hopefully we foster a community where that's the shared experience and everyone gets better afterwards through support and roadmaps. And that's what it's turned into, and I didn't realize that was what was happening because, again, I'm smart enough. I'm intuitive. Life's a dope deal. Right?
Yeah.
Dope deals work for all kinds of reasons: verbal agility, social literacy, right?
Yeah.
But these are not things that I read about. These are things I learned.
Yeah.
These are things that I figured out on the cuff, on the fly. So it's the same way. I just followed my heart, followed my gut.
I love that.
Right? And it worked out. It worked out because I am doing this for the right reasons. I have previously as a younger man, taught, instructed others, held the podium for the absolute wrong reasons.
Interesting.
Because I liked it.
Yeah.
Because it felt good to wield power and expertise over others in an environment that favored me.
Yep.
I've been that guy. Yep. I've done it. I wasn't just formed and born as the instructor I am now.
Yeah.
I had to make a ton of mistakes. So I've been that guy. But I think I just got there and got to where I'm at now with what the coursework actually is and what the coursework actually does for people long term. Because I am doing it for the right reasons. They are my patrons. They do support me. It's a massive gift that they've given me.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more on all of
I'm grateful.
that.
I mean, I get to do what I do for a living.
Yeah.
I get to do what I love doing for a living, and I do well.
I
do well.
I love the way that you put the vulnerability into the reply.
The buy-in.
It really is.
It's the buy-in. You must engage in it, because there are people who will come to the course and they won't do the evolutions, right? And I don't make anybody do them. Most people do them.
Yeah.
But it's funny how that person, moves to the outermost ring of Saturn compared to the rest of the guys who were closing in on the planet together.
Yeah.
And he didn't share the experience.
Yeah. So the thing that I have over the last, I don't know how many years, maybe it was before the pandemic for sure, my thought process has shifted on a personal note to, I want to personally, I want to work to the point where and I use the term, I want to be able to, things that I do, I want to be able to sweat at. Things that bring me joy, bring me sweat. And it's healthy, it's empowering, it's all that other stuff. And then I want to do that. I want to sweat in a group with others. And the reason why I want to do that is because when we sweat in a group together, we pierce through that veneer and become vulnerable with one another. Yeah. And we share those things. And that type of unity, that type of connection is not attainable without the sweating and without the sweating in the group, and then being comfortable to be vulnerable in that group. And that's the thing that I was trying to, I didn't do a good job of illustrating what your coursework brings. It brings that out to the average person, that they get to experience what it's like to be vulnerable, but in a safe environment, in a way that is, in some regards, empowering. Because then when you are in that vulnerable position and you realize that everybody standing around you has been there, that commonality brings you strength. Yeah. They did it. I can do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to our final question. Let's start wrapping things up.
Okay.
What's the biggest takeaway you would like our audience to walk off with?
Ooh, biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
Be careful who you invest your time and money with.
Okay.
Be careful who you invest your time and money with. Don't approach this with dire resolution. Enjoy yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Enjoy yourself. If you're not having fun,
Yeah.
okay. If you're not having, I mean, it's going to be work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Parts of it aren't going to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're not mostly having fun,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm too old
Yeah.
and you're too old
Yeah.
to be miserable, right? And there's something about mid 50s
Yeah.
that makes you go, wow, I really have spent more time here than I've got left.
Yeah.
Numerically.
Totally. 100%.
Not going to live to be 110.
Nope.
You know?
Yep. So true.
And I'm not going to be miserable, and I'm not going to piss away my time, and I'm not going to do things that don't make me happy, and I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm going to work. And if you're not having fun, if you're suffering, if most of your training is suffering and not fun, you need to either find somebody else to train with, or don't do that shit anymore.
Man, dude, that's
you're not going to get any judgment from me.
Yeah.
About, because I'm a big L libertarian. I don't give a shit what you do. I don't care. I don't care. You do you, fam.
Yeah.
It does not matter to me.
I love hearing that.
But I would tell people that, man, you know, don't let this be not fun.
Well,
be careful who you train with.
I think that's great, insightful information that people will hopefully take away. And oh man, I'll tell you what. It hasn't been my entire career, but trying to get the students to have fun was a unique challenge that I faced. Yeah. You know, I was all business, very focused.
How many people thought Trident Concepts rifle carbine one in
thought happy
2001 was fun?
Not a lot. Totally honest. There were probably only a very few. But you know, now we have such good, you know, we have a lot of returning students. We have such good rapport with them, and they bring good other students that come out, and we have such now, if I leave the class and I didn't have fun, if I didn't laugh, if I didn't help other people laugh, that's how I judge my classes these days. That's how I do it. Yeah,
they have fun. Did I have fun?
Dude, you know.
Does everybody feel like it was time well spent?
And that's the other thing too. And during our debriefs, we get into that. And I love doing debriefs. The debriefs have been so valuable. That's been a central point to everything that we do. And it's taught me a lot. And I can read between the lines a lot of times. And somebody will say things and maybe it sounds very, you know, very rigid. And I'll have to kind of interject. I'm like, okay, but did you have fun? Right. And they'll be like, well, yeah, I did have fun. And I'm like, okay, now bring out the stuff, you know, like, cause they were like kind of standoffish with their remarks. And it wasn't until I could get them to actually laugh a little, smile a little, and then the really good meat kind of came out.
The shared experience helps kind of not let people be standoffish, you know?
True.
It does. And I think that's really important. But, the debrief thing, I mean,
I love it.
And I think everybody has to, I think it's important that everybody gets their say in a class. Everybody,
excuse me.
No, you're fine.
My bad.
It's my drinking problem.
I don't have a drinking problem.
Played reference. But it also, I have specific objectives with debriefs. Like I want to be able to call every single person by name at the debrief and ask them, John, Ted, Billy, Joe, you know, because that's one of the things we do. You know, when we start the class, we thank them as a group and then thank them individually. And then when we end the class, we're going to call every single individual by their name. So I typically have 2.5 days to get 20 to 26 names.
That's good. That's a good challenge.
Do it every weekend.
Yeah.
Do it every weekend. We call it the name game.
Yeah.
There are two reasons for it. Number one, it creates individual connection.
Absolutely. People love hearing their name.
You have to connect with the class as a group, but you have to connect with every individual.
Yeah.
Here's the other reason we do it, and I teach my guys to do it. It forces connection when you don't want it.
Mm.
So I am well practiced enough at this point where when I'm on the road, the 11th week, right? Hadn't had a weekend off.
Wow.
I've been bookended on 2 gov gigs in between. So I've done 13 gigs in 11 weeks, 13 multi-day classes.
Wow.
In 11 weeks. It would be easy for me to unplug myself, go on autopilot, and let my mouth speak the words.
Yeah.
However, if I have to have 20 to 26 names on Sunday when I call your name and ask you, hey, Jeff, thoughts on the weekend?
Yeah.
It forces engagement even when I'm fatigued and I don't want it.
Yeah.
So it's an exercise in my personal instructorship and it's an exercise in my personal discipline.
Yeah. I love hearing that.
Forces me to connect and it forces engagement from me, personal real-time engagement that's not autonomic and by rote.
So one of the things that I love about that, you're probably one of the first trainers, instructors that I've actually heard talk about that.
Right.
When we put our people through the instructor program, we give them, we tell them, you have until the end of the first day to know everybody's name.
Right.
And we give them tools on how to do that. And I tell them the reason why you need to know their name is, number one, everybody loves to hear their name. But most important, they need to feel comfortable coming up to you and asking for help.
Yeah.
And if they don't feel that comfort level, that's a student that's potentially going to be leaving the class unfulfilled. If you can engage with them in conversation using their name,
right,
they will have a much higher probability of coming to you and saying, hey, Craig, man, I'm just having a hard time with this structural thing. What am I doing wrong?
Yep.
And that's your opportunity to move the ball closer to the goal line.
Yeah.
So I love hearing that. It makes me really happy. I mean, obviously validation, knowing, that's an important thing because it's not easy. It takes a lot of work and it's like.
It forces engagement.
Yeah.
You can't be just an RSO.
Yeah.
If you have to know everyone's name.
So true.
It forces a higher level of engagement from you. And it forces it from you even when you don't want it.
That's true. So true.
It's an absolute exercise in personal discipline, and professionalism.
I think, number one, I couldn't agree with you more. And the last thing that I will say about the importance of using students' names is that you're not like, and you said this earlier, they're patrons.
Yeah.
And you're looking to connect with them for that class, but you're also looking to connect with them for future classes. So from a business model, if you don't do that, you run the risk of a one and done, which it took a lot of work to get the one in there. Yeah. If you can convert them to a returning student, your job is halfway done.
Yeah.
All right. So, that's a wrap. I want to thank you, Craig, for coming on the show. But
easy to do.
Yes. And I'm going to tell you this straight up. There were so many topics that we did not get into.
Right.
So many. I'm kind of disappointed. I looked at the clock and I'm like, I don't want to bring these up, but I want to talk about cocktails. I want to talk about food. I want to talk about dress, all these things. So basically what that means is that we left the door open.
Back.
Yep, pretty much.
Gotta come back.
Left the door open for that one. Where can people learn more about you?
ShivWorks.com is the website. site that I should update more than what I do. My Instagram, South Narc, Craig Douglas. I have personal. I'm not good at that, dude. I'm not good.
Terrible.
I'm a entangled gunfighting missionary.
Yeah.
I bring the training to you and all the other stuff, the videos and the tech shit. I'm just not good at that. And I should, that's not an excuse to, I should get better. I acknowledge that, but I will teach 40 something weeks this year.
Wow.
Like I do every year.
Wow.
And the most up-to-date training schedule is at ShivWorks.com. We'll be getting the second quarter out now because at this point, when I release the schedule, it just gets filled. It gets mobbed.
Fantastic. That's smart. All right. I want to thank our audience for tuning in. I want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank the men and women holding the line. Check out all our previous podcasts by visiting bulletproofworkshop.com. Learn more about me and training opportunities by visiting tridentconcepts.com. Until then, I'm Jeff Gonzalez. You're listening to the Bulletproof Workshop podcast. Stay safe or be dangerous.